Hi, everyone. Welcome to the sunny side of San Diego. My name is Vinnie. And my co-host over here is Cowboy Carini.
Yep. You up.
If you're listening to us on the podcast, not watching us live, Michael is wearing a cowboy hat.
Yep. Won my whole life. Finally at age 36, and so that's my new thing.
So what would you call that? So it's not a gallon hat, right? Right? Isn't there a gallon hat?
Oh, you're getting too detailed for me.
Uh, what's the idea behind the cowboy hat? You just going country?
Well, I've always been a fan of country stuff, country lifestyle, and cowboy mentality. The idea of grinding, hustling, being a man of your word. So something I've always been a fan of, and I've always wanted one. And somebody got me one, and so I'm thrilled.
Well, before this episode, we want to talk about what's next. Also, we wanted to give a little shout out to one of our subscribers on YouTube, Becca. She was kind of giving us a little insight into what her family does, and it sounds like she had a Zoom holiday season. So, and we talked about that on one of our previous episodes, kind of what everyone was doing. So, be curious, Becca, how did that Zoom family experience go?
I hadn't thought about that, but the idea of people having to gather with their families via Zoom, that's got to be rough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I mean I don't know. For me personally, I think especially if they're smaller, if the kids are smaller, because the attention span is harder. I mean, if you're doing with adults, it might be a little easier to kind of do some virtual games and things like that. And yeah, when they're small and they have a low attention span, that probably I think would probably be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, I just can't even imagine. I think that we just have to kind of make decisions at this point for what's best for us. A lot of people will label that as selfish, but I think it's important. You have to look at your group, your circle, your people, and think about what's best for them, for your family, what's best for you, what's best for your children, what's best for your parents, and just make
Yeah,
a educated decision to the best of your abilities. But I know that if I had had an opportunity to see my grandfather before he passed, I would have gone to see him, and I wouldn't have let anybody stop me or get in my way because of what he meant to me and what that would have meant to him. And I know that it would have made a difference for him, and the fact that it would have made a difference for him and meant so much to him, I would have been willing to do what was necessary because of that.
yeah, and it goes. I mean, hopefully, anyone listening right now was able to enjoy the holiday season and get, I mean, some enjoyment out with family, with friends, without, I guess, putting anyone in harm's way. I mean, that's a tough thing. I was talking to a friend that, again, it's a friend of a friend kind of thing, but they know someone there's a younger kid that's I guess was asymptomatic, didn't have any. I mean, didn't realize they had anything. Moved in with their grandparents. Next thing you know is their grandparents got it, and the grandfather is out of the hospital. The grandmother is still in there fighting for her life, and you just never know if you have it or don't have it. And especially if someone's has some underlying symptoms, just be careful out there. I mean, it sounds like we're getting close to the end of the line, getting all resolved. And like we talked about, this is an episode about what's next. I mean, let's put this stuff behind us. Let's fight through the rest of it. And so, yeah, what's next for you, Michael?
I'm kind of preparing for worst case scenario because I remember at the beginning of this that I heard that it was only going to last a few weeks. So I have lost. I always am a person that gives my trust and my faith up front, and it has been largely lost at this point. So I don't have any trust or faith in the powers that be that are making the decisions right now. So I am sort of conditioning myself mentally, physically, emotionally to be able to ride this out for the long haul, to be able to adapt, to be able to adjust. And I'm somebody that likes comfort and homeostasis. So that has been largely removed this year. And so I've had to sort of become accustomed and acquainted with working with whatever is given to me. And so I've tried to adapt my model for business and my philosophy on life to kind of survive in not only survive but thrive as much as possible through these times. And so I'm prepared for what's next to be a continuation of what's currently happening.
I mean, my girlfriend is a nurse, and so she's got the first part of the vaccine, and she gets the next one in a couple weeks. So I mean, I've seen it at least up front that there's some kind of vaccine. Of course, I mean, if you want to get conspiracies and say, oh well, maybe it wasn't a vaccine they're giving, it's a placebo, blah blah. And I mean, it seems more likely that we are getting close to the end of the line with these vaccine, multiple companies still fighting to build a vaccine out and sell it. So it's just a matter of when people start getting vaccinated. The talk is probably going to be summertime. We'll see if that rings true. Someone might be listening to this episode in 2021 summer and going, now we still got till Christmas, 2021. So hopefully that's not the case, but it's finding out. I mean, how can you thrive, survive, and push through? I mean, I've seen different businesses where they're adapting, where they're changing, where they're growing in this situation, right? They're okay. Well, we can't do dine-in seating, so let's try to get creative with delivery. Or okay, well, we can't do in-person meetings. Okay, let's do Zoom meetings. And you're finding ways to actually maximize your time. So it's finding out what you're going to take away when this all is over, because it'll be over. There'll be a time when it's over. Figuring out what you can take away from it and say, okay, well, I learned this, I learned that, I learned this. I'm going to use that now that everything's getting back to kind of a more normal, our new normal.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of lessons to learn. I think a lot of the small businesses in particular have learned a lot of lessons on how to adapt as much as they possibly can. I feel bad for them, though. I have a lot of love for them, and seeing the struggles that they have and seeing so much being given to the big businesses, while some of these small businesses that don't know how to manage these things have gone the wayside, because a lot of the bigger companies have people that know how to go after these loans, that know how to go after these things and to adapt to these things. Whereas some mom and pop businesses, they may not be as well equipped to even know what the options are, or to fully understand what the options are. And with the regulations here in California, it's been such a roller coaster of back and forth that I've seen many businesses adapt only to have things changed again and changed again. And so it goes back to, you kind of have to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. And so that's kind of been my mentality for this scenario too. And luckily, I had already been a home operated business for the past year or so. So that allowed me to make more minor changes to cope with the current situation. Though cost of living doesn't change, cost of living doesn't go down for most people. I don't know a lot of people being given straight up reprieves or reductions on rent. Cost of living never goes down. And cost of living here in San Diego is very, very high, some of the highest in the country. And so I've seen a lot of people in terms of what's next moving out or talking about moving out of San Diego, moving out of California. And I've contemplated myself, but it's a lot of work for me because I've got my established business here. I've got all my vendors here, but I have to think about what's next for me and what's best for the long haul with the current information. So I don't know where I would go though if I was to leave here.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's going to be the biggest thing is figuring out, where you go. I actually had someone on, I was on another person's podcast yesterday. They were asking me about basically what I thought about everything that's going on in California and how there's an exodus of Californians leaving.
Yeah.
And so I kind of gave my feedback on there. I mean, I really think that it's difficult when you try to put rules in place and we've talked about this, to protect the masses. I mean, there's a difference between theory and actually how you execute. And I think probably the theory of what they're trying to do is right. Their execution has been wrong and it's probably affected us.
Yeah. And I think that it's resulted in a lot of people not taking them seriously and no longer caring what they have to say. So I think a lot of people are just doing their own thing now. And I've definitely lost my faith. Not that I had a tremendous amount of faith in the government prior to this, but I also think that a lot of times you have to be cautious to side with the masses. because groupthink can be a very dangerous thing. And if you look back at history and some of the decisions made that were groupthink, I think that we just have to take things with a grain of salt. And I think a lot of people were not prepared to deal with hardship. I think that we've lived in a world for a long time where there have been so many blessings, so many good things, people living at such a level that strife and chaos and all this was not something that they were prepared to deal with. And I think that those that are accustomed to rebuilding and those accustomed to struggle and those accustomed to picking themselves up have been the people best equipped to adapt to everything going on right now. So I think that there have certainly been some opportunities for people to change their position in life, to move forward, to maybe change relationships, change jobs, move in the direction of going after their dreams. And that's one of the things that I've been talking about a lot this past year, is that it is an opportunity to move in the direction of what you want. Maybe you woke up and realized, hey, I've been living the life that's not meant for me. And so maybe what's next for a lot of people, or what could be next for 2021, is that recognition, acknowledging that you're not happy with what you have, and then moving in the direction of it, creating it. I think that we have to create our own happiness rather than wait for somebody like the government or an external source or person to hand it to us.
Well, with the business aspect of it, I mean, unemployment was at a higher price for a little bit of time. I wonder if how many people left their jobs and started something new. Right? I mean, I've heard of people on my podcast, Road to Growth, where they get fired from their job, but they're getting a pension, so they're getting some kind of income. Their cost of living is fairly low, and so it allows them the opportunity to actually build a company, build a business. I'm curious if we'll get different kinds of businesses popping up in that kind of sense. And also, too, talking about the idea of what's next. I mean, you said it's kind of difficult time right here. I mean, in difficult time, it has to put a damper on a lot of relationships. I'd be curious, once this kind of quarantine opens back up and things start opening back up, if there'll be more breakups. Because I think there was a study though saying that you start seeing more breakups after the new year, after like Christmas, I think.
Because people go through cuffing season, wanting somebody to be with for the holidays. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got into a relationship on New Year's Eve last year that carried through part of the pandemic, but my relationship ended in the middle of the pandemic, which was very rough because it was harder to meet people. And then I just happened to meet somebody in the past couple months. And so we just decided that, hey, we don't care. We're not going to wait until this is over because there's no end in sight. So we're just going to do what's best for us. And so I managed to stumble my way into one during the pandemic. But I agree with you. I think that there will probably be a lot of those people having to spend a lot of time with each other and recognizing, hey, maybe this isn't what I wanted. That's a little bit too much for me. And that seemed to happen in my scenario. But also going back to what you were saying about the limited overhead, is that's absolutely true. One of the keys to success, in my opinion, especially as a small business or a home run business, is minimizing your overhead. If you're able to reduce your cost of living and have minimal expenses, I think that it opens up the opportunities for things like e-commerce shops. Even if you don't really have a particular skill or something like that, e-commerce is a major source of business in the world that we live in. And so many people have been buying online. And I know that for a while, it was doing really, really well for me. Business actually picked up dramatically during the pandemic. It slowed down for me last month, but I don't know if that had to do with Christmas. So I'm curious to see what happens in the next couple months. But it was just on the straight up for a long time. And so it was actually a little jarring that it went down this past month. But again, I talk about being prepared for the unpredictable, and you have to just be able to adapt and roll with the punches sometimes and pick yourself up. But again, anybody that has had to do that over and over again, you become accustomed to that. It becomes part of your nature, what you're familiar with. And so you're not as anxious or thrown off by things like this.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. I mean, we'd love to hear what's next for you, or what you picked up during this pandemic, what's changed for you during this pandemic, what you learned from this pandemic. I mean, anything like that we'd love to hear feedback, and hopefully subscribe to this platform, subscribe to our other platforms on Google, Stitcher, iTunes, and all those other ones.
Well, you're holding out on us. You didn't tell us what's next for you.
Oh, what's next for me? That's a great question.
Did you intentionally avoid that?
No, I mean, for me, it's been finding out what my new norm is for everything that's going on. I mean, I've picked up things being in the real estate field that go, okay, well, maybe I don't need to go to the office every day. I can work from a home office, more often. Okay, digital marketing. I mean, maybe get the digital marketing more. I do miss door knocking because I think that face-to-face interaction is huge. Open houses when those are allowed again. So I'll probably jump back to those kind of sections of it. Yet I think the digital stuff, like, I mean, these virtual podcasts where we do them here and then we put them on the podcast are something that I think we'll be consistent with and stay with. And so stuff like this is kind of what I'm going to keep pushing forward. Okay, there's gonna be stuff that I'm gonna revert back to in the kind of the business world. And then for fitness, I mean, I've got a routine going for working out, yet it's so much nicer, I think, to go to the gym. So I'll probably keep consistently with my workouts that I've kind of been building up. Yet as the gyms reopen and everything gets, a little bit easier to kind of accommodate, I'll probably go to the gym maybe once a week, twice a week, and do everything else here at the home.
Yeah, I think business-wise, one of the things that you said really hit me, the idea of face-to-face, and I think that not being able to have shows for so long or do events as an artist has been tough. And so it's something that I would like to have back, or like to be able, even through the pandemic, the idea of community grow has made me want to do stuff within the community more, to do more farmers markets, things of that nature. That's something that I would like to do. I would love to have more exhibitions. And then in terms of the fitness, we're going to keep up with the running, particularly because with the erratic tendencies of the gym right now. We're still going to do gym, but we're moving into winter and we're starting to have a little bit of rain. And so because my gym is only outdoor, when it rains, they shut down most of it. So the other day when it was raining, we made that a run day. So I have to be more conscious of the weather. And then we'll have some 2-a-days. Today might be a 2-a-day, actually, because I want to keep padding on to the goal that I already hit for this year. But we'll see how many miles I do next year. It seems to take a toll on my body. So I don't know if I want to keep destroying my joints, but at the same time, I want to keep the physique. So I'm going to have to figure that out as I get a little bit older next year.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm taking joint medication and things like that just to protect my joints.
Yeah, glucosamine and chondroitin.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, guys, for listening. Subscribe, share, and tell your friends. Thanks.